it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing the anti-TBR tag. So I will have the original video for this link down below for you guys, but it was floating around a lot right before December, and because I already had everything like planned out and everything, I didn't get the chance to do it, but I knew that in January I for sure wanted to get to it because I think it sounds like a lot of fun. So essentially it's kind of a twist on, like, I feel like a typical tag video where you're mostly talking about books that you're excited to read or books that you have read. Today we're going to be talking about books that I never want to read, am not interested in at all, and thus it's anti-TBR, which completely makes sense. So I love this idea because I do like to talk about books that I have not read, and I never really get the chance to talk about ones that I never plan on reading. Usually I'm talking about ones that I haven't read but I'm excited to read at some point, so this should be fun. So without further ado, let's get into it. So question number one is already probably going to have a lot of you mad at me, but that is a popular book that everyone seems to love, but you have no interest in reading. So I feel like there are a few options. Like, I might just do honestly a whole video about books that everyone else loves and I really just have no interest in ever reading for whatever reason, but I decided to go with the Shadowhunter books. So I read the original, I think is it 6 now? I can't even remember, but I read the first 3 when they first came out and I really enjoyed them then. And then I read the new ones that came out and the Infernal Devices. And the new 3 I thought were like, I didn't like them as much, and the Infernal Devices I did really enjoy. But I know so many people out there love this series and are super passionate about it, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. I just think I don't have the interest in that world anymore, or that universe. I kind of moved past it, and like, I'm not saying that you ever have to move past it or that it's a bad thing that she keeps on writing in the same universe. Like, I don't care. I know I'm not really interested in reading more of that world. I have not wanted to pick one up in a very long time. Like, I did get Chain of Gold, but I don't think I will ever actually read it. I for sure won't read The Dark Artifices, or I don't even know what the other ones are. Like, I'm not saying they're bad books by any means. I just really, there's so many of them, and for me, I kind of struggle with series as it is. I like to be exposed to new worlds and new stories and new characters, so I'm not a huge fan of like big giant books and big giant series. So with this, it's like a whole, like, it's a lot, so that's why I just kind of have never really wanted to pick up more of it, because I just like experiencing something new. So yeah. Number 2 is a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. So I actually, when I was younger, I started to read this book and I had no clue what it was about, but I never actually ended up finishing reading it, and that is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Is that who it is? I can't remember how you say his last name, but it's, now that I know what it's about and now that I'm older, because I was probably like 15 or so when I wasn't 15. I would say I was 16 or 17, and I was just getting into reading. I was just getting into loving books. So I was like, oh, there's all these classics that I should get to. And for some reason, Lolita was one of the ones that I picked up without knowing anything of what it was about. And I didn't get very far into it at all and just never ended up picking it up again. So I never really got far enough to figure out what it's about. And I feel like I would have been very uncomfortable even back then with everything surrounding it. It's just like, it's uncomfortable, you know, it deals with like an uncomfortable relationship that I'm just not really a fan of, or comfortable with, if you will, just to say that word one more time. So yeah, I will never read that book. I have no interest in it now that I know what it's about, and I'm glad that I know that before I actually read it. Number 3 is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. So I actually kind of had a hard time coming up with an answer for this one. I know there's definitely a lot of authors that I'm just not really interested in, but for some reason it was really difficult for me to think of one in particular. But I'm going to go with Jennifer L Armentrout. So I have actually read Obsidian by her, and I think I rated it like kind of higher than I remember it being, which is why this year I don't really plan on giving ratings to books, at least not publicly, and that's just because like ratings help me to remember how I felt about a book, but at the same time sometimes it doesn't match up, so it just like it's better if I just don't, basically. But yeah, so Obsidian, like I don't remember having fond memories of it, but I think I gave it like a 3 or a 4, which makes no sense to me. But it's also when I first started doing BookTube and started reading and rating things, so I think I just was like more generous than I am now, I guess. But I know she has a ton of new books. She has a ton of books out. There's actually one that was on my most hyped books of the year list that you guys gave me for Bookmas day. I don't even remember what day it is. What was it? Day 11. So there you go. So she does have like new things that a lot of people are loving, but I've just never really gravitated toward her books for whatever reason. Another one that I thought of was, I think it's PC Cast. I don't know. I know they're Canadian and they have like a giant series and they have still been coming out with books. I think their old books came out like around Twilight times and they're kind of similar, like paranormal romances. I don't know exactly how they're paranormal, like what creatures they deal with or anything, but those don't really interest me either, even though they have some other books that they've come out with. Like there are quite a few authors that I'm never really like, I really want to pick up their books, and sometimes there's a reason, but most of the times I don't really know why. It's just kind of how it goes. And 3.2 is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. So this is actually an author that I read one of his books and I really hated it, so it kind of ends up working out, but that's Jay Asher. And yeah, I'm not really going to talk about why he's problematic. You can just Google it. Google's your friend. It will tell you everything that you need to know, but I have no interest in reading any more of his stuff or supporting him at all. And it's fine. Like I didn't even like his first book, so it's whatever. Question 4 is an author who you've read a couple of their books, but then you decided that they're not for you. So this one pains me, but I'm going to go with Kiera Cass. I loved the selection, like the original 3 books. I read them. I remember distinctly when I first discovered BookTube, first like started making videos, I read those 3, that trilogy, like in 3 days. And then I also read Dorothy Must Die and Rebel Belle. Those were like the 3 books, well, the trilogy and then the 2 other books that kind of got me started on everything. So the Selection trilogy I fell in love with, and like I don't really want to reread it today because I feel like I might not have the same feelings, and maybe I would, but I just don't want to risk it. It has like this sacred memory in my mind. So then I read The Siren. I'm not sure if this is the exact order, but The Siren was a book that she had initially self-published that then, with seeing the success of The Selection, they ended up actually traditionally publishing it. And I read that one and really didn't care for it at all, didn't like it. Now then they came out with the 2 additional books for the Selection series that follow America's Daughter. And those were just not, like, they weren't the worst, but she was just such an annoying character, so they weren't nearly as enjoyable as the original Selection trilogy, and I felt like they just kind of dragged it down and were unnecessary. And then they came out with, this past year, The Betrothed, and I was so excited for The Betrothed. Honestly, like, I didn't really fall in love with her other books, but this one sounded more like The Selection, more like something I would love, so I was cautiously optimistic. Actually, I don't even think I was cautious. I just kind of was optimistic. I thought it was going to be a success for me, but it just was not. It completely, like, oh, it just didn't go anywhere. It was so one-dimensional. It had potential, I feel like, but it just never quite got there. So it was just kind of a letdown in a bunch of different ways, and I'm still really sad about it, but I just have decided I'm not gonna, like, they have a sequel coming out for it actually, and I'm not going to pick it up. I just know it's not for me, and I probably won't pick up any of her other books, but I also hate to write off an author. Like, I still want to try them, so it's really hard for me to do that, but yeah, her books might just not be for me. Question 5 is a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you've tried to get into, but it's just not for you. So sci-fi, I would say, is a genre I really, really struggle with, but it's not one that I won't read. I will still try sci-fis. I'm just a lot more picky with them and a lot more hesitant to pick them up. But like Skyward by Brandon Sanderson is a sci-fi, and I really love that one. But I will never pick up an adult mystery. I have actually picked up one, I think. What is it? The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. But that one isn't really, like, I feel like if it's more of a paranormal mystery, I will consider it, but like a just plain mystery, I have no interest in. I'm not really interested in that, like domestic thrillers or thrillers in general, horror, that is not me at all. I will never pick those books up. Like I read Gone Girl and I didn't like it. I read The Girl on the Train and didn't like that. So I'm not really into mysteries. Even with YA, they're not my favorite, but I will still read some, but it's kind of just like, I like to read them mostly around October, but adult for sure, I would never really be interested in those. It's just, I don't know. I don't like scary things and I don't like trying to guess what's happening. I never guess it, and that's why even with YA ones, I'm kind of hesitant to pick them up. Question 6 is a book that you've bought but will never read, so it can be one that you unhauled or one that you have and you just don't think you'll ever read. So realistically, I don't think I'll ever read the Tolstoy books that I have or like Moby Dick, because those are giant classics and I don't think I'll ever be like, I want to read that today. Like I would love to read Anna Karenina in theory. I would love to read War and Peace in theory, but in practice, I don't think it will ever actually happen. Maybe I'll listen to the audiobook, like never say never, you know, it might happen one day, but if I'm being realistic, the chances I think are super, super low. But like, maybe one day, you never know. Question 7 is a series you have no interest in starting or a series that you've started and have DNF'd. So there are plenty of series that I have started but haven't continued with because I'm very picky about which series I continue with, because like I said, I like new worlds. I don't really like long series. So I kind of had a hard time though with this, but I think I might do a video in the new year. Let me know if you would be interested in that, specifically on some series that I won't be continuing with. So the one that I went with, I don't even remember. Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So that's just a duology, but I won't read the second book. Is it Muse of Nightmares? I don't know. I didn't like the first book. So many people love that one, but I love Laini Taylor's writing. Like she has such beautiful writing. I just don't really like her stories. Like I like the concept of the stories, but I love the writing, but the execution of it, like I just find myself bored most of the time, which is why I don't think that I'm going to try more of her books. That's actually another author for that question. But Strange the Dreamer in particular, I had a really hard time with, and I tried twice because so many people said that they loved it, but it just was not working out for me. So definitely won't be continuing and reading the second book in that duology. And finally is a new release that you have no interest in reading. So this one, once again, had a really hard time. Like, I don't know if it's just because I've been really limiting my time on social media, so I'm very disconnected from everything because I had filmed Bookmas like way back in the day. I feel like it's been like a year since I've interacted with the bookternet, but I would say Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer is a newer release that I'm not interested in reading. I don't really like to just like say I'm not going to read anything, but this one for sure, like I won't ever pick that up. It's Twilight, but from Edward's perspective, and I'm just not really interested in that. Like I did like Twilight at one point and I'm just not really into it anymore. Like no shame if you are, but yeah, I'm definitely not interested in reading the story again from a new perspective. So yeah, that was the anti-TBR tag. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's kind of fun to, you know, talk about some books that I never want to read, a little bit of a different twist on things. So don't forget to check out, I have it linked down below, the original video, so you guys can do it if you would like to. But thank you so much for watching today's video. I will be uploading every Wednesday and Saturday, so don't forget to click that subscribe button so you won't miss any of my uploads, and I will see you in my next video soon. Bye!